haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Pei Dalid Amud Aleph, the new Mishnah at the top of the Amud. In regards to then the Korban Pesach, those who are included in the Chabur of the Korban Pesach, each one has to have at least a kezayis of basar Korban Pesach. What constitutes basar of the Korban Pesach? That's the subject of our Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol, all that is eaten when the shor, the ox, is a gadol, meaning it's fully developed, and the bones have already become strengthened and hard. Ye'ochel begedi harach. That's what you can eat by a Korban Pesach. A gedi, either an eiz or a keves, after it's 8 days old, up until 1 year, 1 year can be brought as a Korban Pesach. What is the parts of the Korban Pesach that we can go ahead and consider to be basar? The definition is when it would be developed like just the shor hagadol, the big ox, and its parts of the body that are now soft become hardened bones. If they themselves can be eaten now, they're edible, soft enough to be eaten, then they're considered to be basar that's included in the kezayis. However, if not, then there is not part of the kezayis. And the Mishnah continues, V'roshe knofayim v'hasechusim, and included in this are the tops of the shoulders, the shoulder blades. That means the area, the ligaments that are going to be attached to these shoulder blades, as well as the sechsuchim, those areas of the ligaments, those are going to be even not attached. For example, places by the ear. Says the Gemara, Rabba Rami. Rabba asks the following contradiction in our Mishnah itself. Tnan, it states, Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol ye'ochel begedi harach. All that is eaten when it's a big ox, that's when you can go ahead and use those to be the parts of basar for your Korban Pesach even now, when the gedi is soft. In other words, although there's other parts that are soft now, but if they're going to become hardened later on, then they can't be constituted as the basar. However, if it's not eaten because they're too hard, then they cannot be then used as the part of the basar now as well. But now the Seifa seems to contradict this. Roshe knofayim v'hasechusim. The Roshe knofayim and the sachsuchim and the sechusim, these hani lo misachli b'shar gadol, are not eaten when the shor develops into a full ox and the bones are hardened. So these areas are not going to be included in this. So it's a contradiction. Does it have to be something that can be eaten when it's an ox gadol, or even not? Elo, says the Gemara, Tanoihi. It's a machloikis tanoim within our Mishnah. V'hochik tani, and this is how you have to learn the Mishnah. Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol ye'echel begedi harach v'she'eno nechal loi. The first Tana of our Mishnah states all that will be eaten when it's going to be a shor hagadol, then you can use that for your gedi harach now as well. However, if it cannot be eaten, it cannot be used towards the kezayis of basar for your Korban Pesach. V'yesh oimrim, and there's another opinion in the Mishnah, a second Tana, af roishe knofayim v'ha sechusim. Rava has another mahalich, and he says it's all really one Tana. Mahain kitani. It's taught, what are these? As follows. V'hochik tani. This is what the Mishnah teaches. Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol b'shloka. All of those that are eaten by a shlor, that are eaten as a shor hagadol when it's cooked very well. Ye'ochel begedi harach bitzli. Then they can be used to be eaten now for the gedi, for the Karban Pesach, even when it's roasted. In other words, that which we're saying that can be eaten as a shor hagadol when it's cooked very well, those are the same things that when it's not cooked but rather roasted as a gedi for the Karban Pesach can be also then used. Umahein, and what are these? Roshe knofayim veha sechusim. So we have the same Tana that's explaining that this is the same thing. The Roshe knofayim veha sechusim, these are the things that indeed can be cooked well, and therefore they are able to be eaten now as well. Tanya kavosei derove. We have a brayso that supports it's all one Tana. And you don't have to say it's two different Tanoim, like the first opinion. Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol b'shloko. All that are eaten when it's a full-blown ox, when it's cooked very well. Then ye'ocha b'gedi harach b'tzli. Then those are the very things that can be used for your Karban Pesach, even when it's just roasted. Umahein, and what are they? Roshe knofayim v'hasechusim v'gidim harachin nidoinin kebosar. And the soft sinews are also like bosar. So here we have, just like Rava said, it's all one Tana that explains it to be that indeed, if it's going to be fully cooked very, very well, as a shor hagadol, then it can be used when it's roasted for Karban Pesach. Itmar, the Gemara brings the following statement: Gidin shesoifan lahakshos. When you have sinews that will become ultimately hardened, right now they're soft, but they'll become hardened. Rabbi Yochanan Omar nimnin alein Pesach. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that they can be included in the kazayis of a Karban Pesach for those who are included in the chabura, because he obviously holds that we look at what it is now, that it's soft. Reish Lakish Omar ein nimnin alein bepesach, that you cannot use this as your Karban Pesach. Rabbi Yochanan Omar nimnin alein b'basar hashta azlinan. Rabbi Yochanan says that you could, says that you look at the here and now, and right now, since it's soft, we're not concerned about that it's going to ultimately become hardened. Reish Lakish Omar, no, ein nimnin alein, because basar b'soif azlinan, since it will ultimately become hardened, therefore even now you can't use it. Reish Lakish asks from the following brayso that we quoted before on Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yochanan says that the gidin, those sinews, even though they will become hardened, but right now they're soft, can be used. It states in the brayso that we quoted before, Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol ye'ochel b'gidi harach. All of the shor hagadol that can be eaten, that can be used for the shor harach. Umahein, the brayso stated as Rava with a support for Rava, and what are they? The same Tana says, Roshe knofayim v'hasichusim hani'in. So he makes a diuk. These, indeed, the knofayim, Roshe knofayim and v'hasichusim, those are the things that can be eaten. Aval gidin shesoifan lahakshos loy, but the gidin that will ultimately become hardened, those sinews, not. So it's a kasha from the brayso. Omarle Tana hani v'uadin lahanoch. It's not a kasha because the Tana taught these, but huadin the gidin as well. Hani my time, because these. Why is it going to be valid when it talks about the Rosh Knafayim v'sechusim? Because the ha misachli b'shor hagadol b'shloko, since they can be cooked very well, even in a full-blown ox, and can be eaten, then hanach nam misachli b'shor hagadol b'shloko. So too over here, when it comes to these sinews, when they're cooked very well, they can also be eaten. So therefore, you can use them for your Karban Pesach now as well. That's the sheet Rabbi Yochanan. Omar le Rabbi Yirmiyahu le Rabbi Avin. Rabbi Yirmiyahu says to Rabbi Avin in regards to what Rabbi Yochanan said. Ki azlas lakem lekamed Rabbi Abohu Ramile. When you come before Rabbi Abohu, then present the following contradiction. Mi om Rabbi Yochanan gidin shesoifon lahakshois nimnin aleim b'Pesach. On the one hand, Rabbi Yochanan says that the gidin, the sinews that will ultimately become hardened, can be included in your Karban Pesach right now. Alma basar hashtas azlinan. So we see that Rabbi Yochanan's shita is that you go after right now when it's soft. And yet, Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan the following question: Or haroish shel egil harach mau sheyitame. He asked, when it comes to an egil rach, there the ore, it's soft so long as that the egil is still nursing. Though the ore is soft enough to be considered to be food. And therefore, since it has a designation of food, so then it has a designation of something that's mekabel tuma. Something that's a non-food item does not mekabel tuma. So here, Reish Lakish asked Rabbi Yochanan, what about the or harosh shel egel harach? It doesn't have the status of being mekabel tuma because right now it's soft. Or do you say you don't look at the right now, you look at the osid that is going to become hardened and therefore it is not going to be susceptible to tuma because it's a non-food. Omar loy, and Rabbi Yochanan answered Reish Lakish, ein metame. It's not going to be metame. Alma, basar soif azinan. So we said Rabbi Yochanan goes after the soif, since it's going to become hard in the future. Therefore, we will say that's a non-food item that's not mekabel tuma. So we see a contradiction. Rabbi Yochanan, on the one hand, said before that we do go basar hashta, and now he's saying you go basar the osi, the soif. Omar lei, he said back to him, the one who posed this question was not careful how he grinded his flour, how he then grinded this contradiction. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan was chayzer boy to agree ultimately with Reish Lakish's opinion. In other words, just like Reish Lakish says that you go after the soif, so too Rabbi Yochanan was chayzer boy and said also you go after the soif. He says, Al takniteni. He says to Reish Lakish, don't harass me, don't bother me about that Mishnah and bring it as a proof against me. Initially, I taught the Mishnah as being unanimous, whereby the halacha is like that Mishnah. Whereby that Mishnah, I said, it means to say that you go after the hashta, after the now. And therefore, that's the halacha. Whereby he said over here also, he argues with Reish Lakish and says, you go after the now. But then he was disproven by Reish Lakish, by the Mishnah over there, whereby he was chayzer and said that's not a unanimous Mishnah. Really, it's a das yachin. The halacha is not like that. Whereby, since the halacha is not like that, then you go basar soif. So to over here then, he agrees with Reish Lakish that you go basar soif as linon.